Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we review two Texan whiskey titans from Still Austin, the Cask strength and the straight bourbon whiskey. Run the video. Alright then folks, thank you for joining us for another new and exciting episode of the Whiskey Cove, where we will be reviewing two Texas whiskey titans from Still Austin. One of the distilleries that is making some absolute waves here in the whiskey and bourbon industry. Alright then, so we have the straight bourbon whiskey from Still Austin here, the musician as they call it. We are using the Speyside taster for this. As you can see from the bottle, it does have a synthetic cork on top, so make from that what you will. The label is exactly the same labels on the front. It's the same picture, it's just different colors there. This is coming in at 49.2% alcohol or 98.4 proof. This is pretty good for your flagship straight bourbon whiskey. This is aged just 2 years or more, which is pretty good if it's not very youthful, that is. So that's definitely going to be a note that I'm going to be looking out for here. So just looking at the whiskey in the glass there, it does look gold in color, leaning into the ambers, but actually looks quite thick, all things considered, for that ABV range and the age range there. Let's go in for a nose here. I'm not really getting any youthful notes on the nose here, which is quite the testament so far. Obviously I can still potentially taste them, but it's just a really nice caramel corn sweetness with some rolling bacon spice notes. A little bit of butterscotch there as well, like a toffee butteriness. And then maybe almost like a savory pancake note. Maybe that butterscotch pancake rolling note comes together quite well, but no proof, no heat, not much spice, just coming from the bacon spices, no rye spice, or nothing like peppercorns or anything like that. Let's go in for a taste here. Really nice, approachable whiskey so far. You get a little bit of heat, a little bit of spice on the front palate there, but then it transitions more into the caramels, more into like a brown sugar note. And then you also have, as that kind of sweetness pulls back a little bit, a nice woody note that I associate with a lot of Texas whiskey. And it's kind of almost reminiscent to like a mesquite, like a nice sweet mesquite, like you're smoking some meat on mesquite pellets or wood, and you're getting that wafty note that comes up, which is a really interesting but also very nice note when it's combined with other sweeter notes as well. Let's go in for another taste here. There's not too much of a finish going on here, but it is, like I said, very approachable, and it drinks so well for a 50% or close to 50% ABV whiskey. No Kentucky hug. I just wish there was a little bit more going on in the back end there. Touch of vanilla, a little bit more of a spice note that kind of comes out there, and those bacon spices maybe flare up just a little bit. But the wood, that mesquite note kind of pulls right back in, and it's not quite there on the finish. A great everyday sipper. I'll give value for money on this one. I paid about $40 for this. I'm going to give this a C, value for money. I think there's probably better value for money, but this is a craft bourbon, around close to 50% ABV, which is pretty good. So I think C is excellent. For value, for score of 100, I'm just going to give this 50, right down the middle. If you don't know about our scores on the channel, 50 is a pretty good score, right in the middle of the park. I think that's exactly where you want to be as a straight bourbon whiskey. I think that's exactly what it deserves to sit. Has quite a decent amount going on in the nose. Finish kind of lets it down a lot, and then not really much wood after that mesquite note goes. Pretty good, strong start here from Still Austin. Now let's move into the cask strength version. This is coming in at 59% ABV or 118 proof. Like I said, the label is exactly the same. It's just more blacks in colors, and it says something a little different on the back there. This talks a little bit about to create this rust bourbon. We asked our master blender, Nancy the Nose Farley, to search through our barrels of straight bourbon and select the most complex and full flavored ones. And that's exactly what it looks like she did. So this is maybe more small batch there as well. Again, this is going to be aged at least 2 years. And just looking as I was pouring it, it looks like used motor oil that's kind of come out of a car with like 100,000 miles and no one hasn't changed the oil in like 20,000 miles. It looks really thick and really oily in the glass, which is a testament saying that it's not older than 3 years. It's aged at least 2 years. Let's go in for a nose here. Again, wow, no youthful notes there as well. No spiky grains, no off yeast notes. I think that's a pretty good testament to, from what I've tried from Still Austin so far, for a craft distillery to be able to round out of those notes. I think that's a great step into kind of the macro distilling kind of space, if you like. Because there's definitely a note that can come with a lot of craft whiskey that people generally don't like because they've associated their palates and how they like whiskey with macro distilleries that have been able to step away from some of those notes. And this does a really great job at not having that. I get a little bit like a cherry liqueur note, maybe a touch of rye spice. But this is all of those like darker barrel char, toasted marshmallow, espresso coffee bean style notes. Has a little bit of that butterscotch there as well. And again, that cherry liqueur note kind of brings it all together. Maybe a touch of that kind of Texas mesquite that I was getting from this one. Let's go in for a taste here. Wow, a really rich mouthfeel. First up, like a sweet cherry liqueur note like I was getting on the nose. That's right there, sweet and buttery. And then when you come off of that cherry, that mesquite, almost like pot still spices there, kind of takes over a little bit. And you're back with like a burnt brown sugar. Those charred barrel notes continue to go. Maybe a touch of ground coffee there as well, maybe more like a mocha with like that chocolate note from earlier on. And again, that mesquite note comes up again. It's really interesting that I get that from a lot of Texas whiskeys. I think that's almost like a hallmark. I don't know if that's like the super high heats out there, or maybe just some of the pollen and stuff that's in the air from the wood. It's a very specific note, but it's a very enjoyable note and really takes Texas whiskey into a genre of its own. Yes, this is a bourbon whiskey, but you definitely know that it's a Texas whiskey if you're someone who's drunk Texas whiskey quite a bit there. Let's go in for another taste here. Really rich, really enjoyable. Some of those sweetness notes down are then kind of cut through a little bit with the higher ABV on this one. Has a pretty good balance of sweeter notes, a little bit of those spicier notes, those woody, mesquite notes. It really brings into like what is a classic barrel-proof Texas whiskey here. I haven't tried matched Texas whiskey. I've circled through Texas quite a few times, tried a couple of different things, but I'm by no means a professional, but really great addition to the Texas whiskey bourbon lineup down there. So, we give this a value from 1 to C. I'm gonna give this a B. I paid about $50 for this one, and then score of 100, I'm gonna give this a solid 73. 23 points higher than this, but I do think that it's worth it. I think there's a lot more going on there. The ABV kind of, like I said, almost balances and brings it all together there. And for like $50 to $60, if you can find this, it's gonna be available in most states. It just got to Colorado here today. And again, we were able to make this video happen because of today's sponsorship from Any Blue Cat. But we also put out a poll on which whiskey you wanted to review, and someone commented that they want something maybe a little bit more craft off the beaten path. So, you know, this video's for you there as well. So, as we drink through the world's whiskeys, one glass at a time, Still Austin did a pretty good job.